Afraid of
There we go. Oops, I think the battery might be.
No, the battery's fine.
Okay. So the idea is to get students to ask real scientific questions. How does changing one thing affect something else? Now, the hard part is how do you get a student from all the way there? Here's how we help out. So if we're affecting, you put this up on your wall first of all, so they can see it like on an easel. And I recommend you put a couple of these ones across like this. When we say we're investigating, some teachers will think, oh, you have to put some really complicated thing. We're investigating how balls are affected by the surface or something like that. No, this is a very simple statement here. You just investigate how balls bounce. See, that's not a scientific question at all. But this is the starting point. Okay, my handwriting's bad, I warn you, okay? Now, you can ask a student, all right, balls bounce, but what are some things that might affect how well a ball bounces? Do you think, does it make a difference how well a ball bounces? The surface it bounces on? You have to see that. Surface. Where's my That's not supposed to bounce. Here's the right surface.
the height from bouncing.
The height you drop it from. It's a good one. Put that down as well.
You
guys
the type of ball.
Absolutely. Is this the kind of thing your students can do? They can come up with these, right? What's something else that might affect how well a ball bounces?
Gravity. Wind.
The wind? Yeah, that's an excellent one. The height, well, when you put the drop height, the height does drop from.
Surface.
Yeah, the surface. Nice. That's something to change. You said the type of ball. You're saying the drop height. Anything? Did you say? Someone said wind.
Yeah.
Let's add wind. Trapped.
Oh.
Good. Okay, the wind. All right, we're just thinking, what else could affect how well a ball bounces? The surface it drops on.
Force.
Type force. How it's thrown?
Force. Yeah.
Okay, you can say force. The force is thrown with.
Yeah.
Let's put that down. Let's write that down.
Force applied.
The force applied. Wonderful. That's a good use. That's a fancy term. Force applied. Can we think of anything else that might affect how the ball bounces?
The size of the ball, the size.
The size of the ball. I like that. Yeah, that's a good one. I like it. The size of the ball.
What about the person actually bouncing the ball?
No, be force. No.
Yeah, the force applied, for example.
How
Yeah.
big the person is?
That's the
How high it's dropped from. Yeah, we already got that. Good. We say size. So we say size of the ball. Sometimes it's nice to be really specific with what we're talking about. Size of the ball. Nice. Okay, now, when you're doing this the first time through, what I usually recommend is you only have students choose the things they're going to change, and then you force what you're going to observe on them. Now listen, it's a bit confusing because when you use science, you have there's three types of variables, two ones that you choose. The independent variable is what you as the experimenter are changing. So for example, I might change the height that I drop the ball from. I might change it from 10 centimeters, 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters. I'm changing that every time I do the experiment. But I'm going to observe something as well. Like I might observe how many times it bounces, or how far it bounces away from the central point. For example, if I drop it on the gravel, it might not bounce down. Or I might measure how high it bounces, or how long it keeps bouncing in time, which direction it goes in. These are things you could observe, and that's something you measure. But when you do this first time, just have the students come up with things that they can change, because it'll confuse them when you start thinking of these and thinking of another one. So would I do that when you're doing the first time, or with younger ones? Now you guys are older, so is I put a piece of paper over this, and you're just going to write down what you're going to observe. We're going to observe how high it bounces, okay? Or we're going to observe how many times it bounces. We're going to choose something the first time.
From what we have.
Well, not from these. These are ones that because this is kind of like before. This is when you're setting up the experiment. This is what might affect how the ball goes, and this is about the effect. What you're actually measuring about what you're observing happening. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Sure. Now. But because we're smart, we're going to try another one. I recommend using a different color for this. What's something we could observe about a ball bouncing? What's something, how do we know one ball's bouncing better than another? What's better? Would you say how high it bounces?
Yes, the height.
Let's put that, height of the bounce. What else could you say? You say how long it takes to stop moving? Time to stop moving?
Yeah.
You can do that. That's a good one.
Bouncing.
How would you say how many bounces it does?
I was saying time to stop bouncing.
Yeah, these are things you could measure.
The number of bounces.
Number of bounces is a good one. Let's do that.
That's right.
Time to stop moving. Nice. I love it. These are so good. All right. Awesome. All right. Cool. I love it. So we got a couple here. And like I said, the first time you do this through, I'd recommend don't confuse them with this because then you kind of get two kinds of variables that are different. This is about setting up the experiment, and this is about what you're watching when you observe the experiment happen. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When we first do it, just force one thing on them.
Right.
Yeah. You guys want to see the magic part? You want to see the magic?
Yes.
Are we ready for the magic?
Yes.
Okay. And remember, we said it's hard to get a student to come up with a real scientific question, but watch this as magic. They came up with all these things that could change. You're going to choose one. Okay, for example, they might choose the surface. Okay, so we will change the surface. Now it's key that you take the actual card from the student and you move it there. Because they take ownership of it. Now they're all proud, they're buzzing about that. And you're going to choose one thing you observe. For example, we can measure, let's do the height of the bounce. Okay?
Some specifics.
Yeah, so now check it out. Now what we can do, so we move these down, we chose one. You were ready for the magic? We're going to write a scientific question. How does changing the surface affect the height of the bounce? Check it out!
Cool.
That's like a real sentence.
Yeah.
Well, we should have the in there, but you know, it's like, but you know, like magic, you've actually gone from just ideas to making a well-formed scientific question. You see how we've done that? Yeah. Thinking. I wouldn't be able to do it myself, actually. But it looks like something I'd write anyway. The surface. And you say height of the bounce, see what you want. It's going to be really long, let's go crazy. Just about to get off. So what we've done is just like this, they've written, now they can write this in their books or whatever, you know. But the thing is, this isn't the only experiment we could have done. This is what really gets exciting. You didn't have to change the surface. You could say, how does changing the type of the ball affect the height of the bounce? You want to see how it gets really interesting. This is where they get scientific. Is this one thing to change that, but in order, if they're going to investigate how the surface affects that bounce, they have to keep everything else the same, or else it's not a fair test. And the students have a really well-developed sense of fair. And the way I'd like to introduce this is, especially around sports day, right? What you do, you take two students, and you put them one in the room, you say, okay, the goal is, I need you to have, Tiyen and someone who are going to race. Who's going to get to the television screen first? You say, ready, set, and then you take Tiyen and you put him here. And then you've got Ashanti still there. And you say, go. And say, is that fair?
No.
Why wasn't it fair?
Because my head starts. Jump.
Tiyen had a head start. That wasn't fair. So that's something we didn't keep the same.
Right.
So you say, okay. Well, we'll have Ashanti and Tiyen both there. And you say, okay, they're the same distance now, but only in front of Tiyen.
Yes,
All right, 30 set, go. And he has no. Is that fair?
No.
No. What's different?
Yes, obstacles.
Yeah. So that's a really nice way to start it. I think. Get started because they understand this idea of fair, not fair, right? So same thing. What we're going to do is, to make this fair, it has to be the same wind. When we're bouncing at different surfaces, how do we make sure it's the same wind? Same room. Yeah, it wouldn't be fair to do one inside, one outside. Right. Same type of ball. How can you make sure it's the same type of ball? Just use the same type of ball. So if you're using happy baseball, you gotta use it every time. If you're using this ball, use that every time. Or else it wouldn't be fair. How about the drop pipe? Same drop pipe. How are you gonna keep it the same? Measure. You use the rulers. You guys have tons of these, right? How about the size of the ball? How can you make sure it's the same size of the ball? Same ball. Right. How to make sure it's the same force applied? Every time, just drop. Just drop. You know? So the idea is to keep these things now. What if they said, well, I didn't want to change the surface. I want to see how changing the drop height affects the ball. Well, then you need to keep the surface the same. You see how this works? And so it makes it, this is the fair test thing. So that as they change one thing, everything else has to stay the same. So if they come up with really weird things, they might come up with things like the color of the ball.
Right.
Doesn't matter, that's fine. Just, it's the same every time. Or they could say the time of day. May or may not make a difference, but it's something you keep the same. Right? So this is quite cool. Now you want to see the super magic part? Okay, this was cool. When the kids can write a sentence like this, that's nice. How does changing the drop height affect height of bounce? That's a good sentence. They can go a bit further, and then they give a prediction. Check this out. As the drop height, now they're going to choose either increases or decreases. That's why I have both of them written on there. So they say, as the drop height, we'll say, increases, the height of the bounce, they need to choose. First group, the predictions are part of these. So what are they going to? What do you think? As the drop height increases, the height of the bounce increases or decreases? Now, they've read a prediction. You may be right, but not always. What if you had a type of ball, you drop it too high that it comes down and smashes? That it's not bouncing anymore. So, so then how can you find out whether it's right? You do the experiment, and that's the fun part.
Okay, so from up there, they would not handle the ball or anything when they came up with these.
Right. Well, what I'd recommend, the planning doesn't have to take too long, but it is kind of a lesson itself. Don't be tempted. It is tempting to try to do a whole investigation in one lesson. But give yourself a break. Come on, they're only 10. They're kids. Especially if they haven't done a whole lot of support. They will get to the point, the first time you're going to do a whole class like this. But after a little while, you'll be able to either borrow some posters from your colleagues if you're doing it, and they can do these small groups, or even just run these, photocopy them into normal double size or whatever, and they can do little groups, or even individuals or something. Even from these cards here, we could do quite a few different experiments, couldn't we?
Right.
Like one experiment is how does the drop height affect the height of bounce? Another experiments would be how does the drop height affect the time to stop moving? Another experiment might be how does the type of ball affect? Now, I changed this to something I want you to notice something. If I say type of ball, can you increase the type of ball? It's not an increase decrease thing. So sometimes you need to cover and just put changes. And then this one you get it right and you say just changes. Because if it's, I use a big word here. You guys with me still? If you have categorical variables, there are different categories. Like a type of ball, you've got a basketball, you've got a baseball, you've got a cricket ball. These are different types of balls. These are categories of balls. You can't really rank them as in, more type-ish or less type-ish. But if I said that the size of the ball, or the hardness of the ball, or the mass of the ball, or, something like this, then you could rank that. So sometimes you'll have things, especially starting out, just do the type of the ball, and then you just put changes here. Okay? The time to some moving will change. It's a less rich prediction, but it's a prediction. It's easier to handle. And then when they do the graph for this, then they just do kind of pictogram, it's easy. You have the tennis ball, the rubber ball, the happy face ball, and how high it drops. We're just talking about planning here. Should we try it out? Let's do it. All right, this is fun. All right, here's some lures. Here's some balls. So what should we try to do first? Should we try to do as the height? Let's do drop height. As the drop height increases, let's do the height of the mouse. Increases. So we all try this? Everybody grab a ruler. Come on, there's 5 of us, there's 5 balls. Everyone can take a different kind of ball. Within your experiment, you don't all need to see the same kind of ball. But only if you're comparing against each other. You're all in your own classes though, right? So for example, if we're recording data as the next sheet. I didn't want to get into. Do you want to share the recording data sheet as well, or is that overload?
Oh, for the next sheet, you probably the recording the other sheet.
Yeah. Is that overload, or are you guys? I'll show it to you. Okay. Well, anyway, the way you do this, and the students do it, so they make sure they drop the same point every time. So if the ones are here, that's not fair. It's going to drop by. How about that? Like right here. Yeah. And then so if I drop from say 80, oops, that was a big one. It'll drop to here. It'll drop to 40.
And you're follow these things.
Right, yeah, and the kids get down, record it, and they can do it in their books, and then you got evidence that you did the experiment because they have this recorded in their books, right? So it's just an example of how we can make an investigation. But what about if we're doing type of the surface? Could you do surface as well? Yeah. You'll still use rules because you drop from the same height. You can do bouncing off the table, bouncing off carpet, bouncing off grass, concrete, somebody's jump jacket or something like this. Yeah, you never know. You might get some really interesting results. So this is how the planning posters work. I know they're really scary when you first see them. Do you feel a little bit better about them?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Because I know you see all these boxes and everything, oh my gosh. But the main thing is once the kids start, I do recommend, use 2 different colors of post-it notes. So the first thing is, what could you change, what could affect, how quickly, Tiyen and the Shanzi can run across the room, and then you can come up, how the type of track, the distance they run, how hot it is outside, blah, 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 and then you just make sure you change what they want.
So this part, this is the position.
Yeah, and you've gotten ahead of yourself.
Right.
You're on fire here. Now, these are getting more and more challenging. First, just coming up with things in effect is the first challenge. Then making a prediction to answer the question is a little bit more difficult. But this makes it easy because they can read it off, right? So how does changing the drop height affect the height of the bounce? But that's actually a relatively high level thing to come up with. To make a prediction is even higher. Now, there's this word here, hypothesis. Now, hypothesis is basically a prediction that's fleshed out with some theory. Okay? So if I say that as the drop height increases, the height of the bounce increases, this is because the ball has more energy stored in it. So it can bounce higher. Or they use some scientific background to explain why. Then that becomes a hypothesis. But a simple prediction just says as one thing changes, another thing changes. But if you can bring some scientific background into it, that makes a hypothesis.
Okay, so you are expecting them to come up with that based upon what they've done there.
Well, in order to do this, they have to have some background. Like, for example, you would have to been teaching something about energy or whatever. For example, they need to be able to relate it to some of their book work, for example, what they've been learning about the theory, as well as just the observation. That's when you start to get into the prediction, the hypothesis idea. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
So they could say this is because of the type of material of the ball.
Yeah, the texture and the mass of the ball.
Right? For example,
The weight of the ball.
right? If we did a different experiment, for example, if we said the type of ball, as the type of ball changes, the height of the bounce changes. Okay? And you could say that this is because different materials have a different elastic properties. So they can return more energy. I'm using a bigger word, but it depends on what you've been teaching. And it don't always need to be something, the idea is if they can kind of put it into the context of the learning, then that makes it more of a hypothesis.
So this is something that the hypothesis, something that has will be developed over time.
Yeah, I mean, you're not
So
going
at first we have to
model it a little bit, yeah. Okay, hang on. This is a higher skill.
Yeah, that's what
Walk before you can learn. Don't stress yourself out. If you can get your goods.
so you're saying then we shouldn't bother with that part of it now?
I would never say don't bother. with
Yeah,
it.
well-
But I would never say never stretch your students.
Right.
But what I would say is the first few times you're using the posters, just get it to the point where they can identify what you can change and come up with a nice question. and then just realize like what they can do to make it a fair test. And then you can start getting a little bit more out of it as you go. Because the real danger is if you try to do too much all in one go, you know, they'll forget the basics. You know, you can overload. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you agree. That's almost why I'm hesitant to show you guys the next posters as well. But you guys want to just see them right now?
Yes.
Okay, let's go for it. And I'm going to stress very much that I'm going to stress that don't try to do the entire investigation from start to finish in one lesson. It's too much. Just do the planning, and then maybe on Wednesday come back.
Where you have this scientific question. So,
and then maybe the next session you can come back to it, and they'll be excited to gather their results. And this is how this works. Now remember, for example, our example here, we're looking at how does the let's do the height. The height's a nice one. This is a nice font. You can take the same poster. How does changing the drop height affect the height of the bounce? And so here we can do, before you start, you can write in your drop height. So we're going to say, oops, this is all right. So you can go 100 centimeters. 80 centimeters, 60 centimeters, 40 centimeters, 20 centimeters. So you start this is what they're going to test it at.
Okay.
You see how this works?
Yes.
And it's like a big, like a table.
Okay.
And so they trial one. This could be the first team, or they can either do it 3 times and they can find an average. You don't have to do all this every time. Even if they just kind of recollect it once, it's fine. But it's nice that if you want to do multiple trials, you can go there. And so what happens?
Or if you have different groups, you could just put it in and just put the average.
Absolutely. You could, if they're all doing the same type of ball and everything like that, you could have group 1, group 2, group 3, and then that gets the numeracy to do your average as well. You know? Which, if you're not there yet, don't worry about it. You know, the main thing is to get them to show that they can record data. This is a nice one to print out for the students to kind of, and they can put it into their book. You know, have this table ready to go for them. And so, you know, they bounce at 100. Okay, the first time at 100, team 1 finds that it bounces to 50 centimeters. They go to 80 and it bounces to 35 centimeters, and so on. See how this works?
Yeah.
So this is a nice way to kind of record data. And again, this on the poster is good for when you're showing it whole class, but this works nicely kind of printed off as almost as a worksheet. You know, then you have evidence of it as well. Yeah, you have this in PDF as well, the same document I was telling you about. Now, like I said, this is too much to do in one lesson, but I'm excited now. If you want to go even further, but I'm sure a unit or a project or a whole series of lessons. And remember, now we take this, what we're changing the drop height, we keep making a graph out of this. Check this out. This is the dependent coefficient measure. So, if it's on their own papers, they can even put, you can even put a graph paper with numbers. Every time the graph is going to be slightly different. The drop height, you'd have, you know, 20 centimeters, 40, 60, 80, whatever. And here, and then you make a nice graph. That's higher level. That's higher level. You're not going to get straight there. Okay? But the thing is, this, you use it, but the nice thing is this is the same variable that the kid came up with last Tuesday, you know, when they did that. And so they own it. And especially if they're doing in small groups, each doing it's really nice. They'll have different investigations.
This is, well, some of my students, no, it's not, because then they will, you see integration coming in, with math,
Absolutely.
collecting data,
And presenting the data.
Presenting the data.
Absolutely, yeah. Obtaining and presenting. Right, there you go. And there's a third poster. Are you guys excited now? Yeah. I'm excited. And it's going to take a lot to get me excited today to the paragraph there. Here we go. Everybody has a set of all 3. And I'm only going through these, I know I don't want to overload you guys, but just so you're familiar with them real quick. These ones, this is the highest level of all, okay? This is about considering evidence and evaluating. Okay, these are higher level skills. So what we do is we use the same cards again. Again, you know, not every class is going to get to this, but you know, only be familiar how these tools work. So when we change the drop height, what happened to the height of the bounce was, as it increased, the bounce height increased, you know, but to a point, because you might get to a point where you go so high it doesn't make a difference anymore. Who knows what you'll find? And then you say, why did this happen? And then so this also works well as a worksheet. You have to kind of scout the answers, you know. So, right. Explain scientifically why did you get this pattern? So this is kind of analyzing your own results. Okay. So because we say considering evidence is analysis, and that's when you talk about your own results from your experiment. Was your prediction correct? They can say yes or no. Why? Were there any unusual readings? Like for example, maybe one time it bounced at a funny angle and they didn't get a number they're expecting. They say, why do you think that happened? So this is to really go over what they found and try to get a deeper interaction with their experience. Do you see what I'm saying? And then here, this from here on is what we call evaluating. Evaluating is when you take your experiment, you're looking beyond your experiment. You're looking for how you can be even better next time. If you were going to do this experiment again, how would you improve it? And so what ways could you have improved what you did? Well, maybe instead of just everyone kind of dropping it like this, we could have had it roll off a table evenly instead of dropping. Or, you know, they could come up with ways that might have made it even more of a fair test. Or to see how high it bounced, maybe they could have had the video cameras or something like that, and so they could go back and see the still frame and see exactly how high it went. You'll be surprised. They'll come up with some really interesting ideas how it could be improved. And what do we do next? But again, this is higher level, this is more, and it's certainly not all going to happen in one lesson. But I want you to be familiar with at least seeing how this stuff works and the tools that are available to you. Has that helped?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. You feel a little bit better about it?
Yes, sir.
Just so you know how to feel about it. Okay. So these are, you know, like I said, every single classroom in the entire system has a copy of all three of these, and these were a lot of work. And when I first come, it's kind of like opening up your first like copy of a book you write or something like this. Wow, they actually exist, the posters. Because I've been promising to people for months and months and months and months and months, but here they exist. Okay. And so in this example, we did the planning is the main one. This is the main one. This is the main one to kind of get your teeth sunk into.
So if you take not one lesson, but one topic, but a series of lessons, can we start here, or we have to go on to the other two?
Well, I mean, it depends on what outcomes you're working on. I mean, planning itself is a skill.
Well, not here, but when you go on to the second sheet.
Would you do it based on the same investigation?
Right.
If you wish. The thing is, you have the autonomy as a practitioner to find out what's going to work best for your class. I mean, if you found that they really didn't enjoy the whole investigation, they found it really boring, then maybe you can just give them some data for something else. Or maybe they really got into it and they thought it was amazing. And you know your class, and you know what's going to work best. But the thing is, the planning is a skill. The analysis is a skill. It's a different skill. You know, the presenting and the recording of data is a different skill as well. And these are all skills that are part of the new assessment scheme. So, and the thing is, the nice thing is doing it like this, especially if they do small versions of it in teams, whatever, you can either take pictures or it's in the books, you have evidence that they've done the planning skills and everything. And then frankly, they quite like doing the experiments.
Yes.
Yeah, we did balls because it's nice and tactile and kind of fun. But you can do a lot of things, like, and many of you have been to my PDs, we've done things like rolling pens